All right, let's go ahead and begin. So first things first, you guys should have all received a welcome email when you first joined the Mortgage Coach membership, and it would have had a download link for RateWatch. If you don't have that link anymore, you can still download it by going to www.ratewatch.com/download. This is going to take you directly to the site where you can install the RateWatch tool. And that brings up a good point. You want to make sure not to do this in Google Chrome. And the reason is Chrome, for some reason, does not like the RateWatch installer. So do it in either Internet Explorer or do it in Firefox, and you will have much better results. So I'll show you what that looks like. So you can see it just pulls up the RateWatch installer here. You click on Install Now, and it'll run you through a couple of brief questions, just asking you if you want to start it up with Windows when it starts. And then it'll get you to a login screen where you can log into your RateWatch. Now, once you are logged in, RateWatch, there's a couple of things I want to draw your attention to. RateWatch can run just like this as you're seeing here, or if you reduce it, it actually also runs in your taskbar here. Now, if you have it like I do, where Windows 7 has these binoculars kind of pulled out to the side and they're not showing down in the taskbar like they normally would, what you can do to fix that is hit Customize. And let me bring that screen over for you here. And this shows you all the different icons that would appear next to your clock. And what you want to do is scroll down until you find the RateWatch one. And then it would be set for only show notifications. Set it to show icon and notifications. And then hit OK. And when you do that, your RateWatch binoculars will be down here in the right corner at all times. Now the cool part about this is that when they're green, mark it's good. When they're red, mark it's bad. So pretty simple at-a-glance idea of what's going on with the RateWatch. Now this also means that at any time, if you reduce this or close it out, I've got my settings, and I'll show you this in just a moment. I've got my settings to close RateWatch entirely, but you can also set it so that when you hit the X, it just goes straight back into your taskbar. So let me pop RateWatch open again, and we'll start going through the settings, and I'll show you how to set some of those up. So the settings cogwheel is right up here at the top right. Most of your settings here are going to be related to how the RateWatch operates, but you should be aware that you can get text messages on this as well. You can check to enable email notifications, commentary emails, repricing alerts. Now this is the alert that comes out whenever there's a plus or minus 15 basis point change. So you definitely want to have those enabled, and it actually will pop up a little alert on the lower right corner of your screen letting you know that there's been a change in the market. Now, if you want to enable text messages, check the box here and pop in a cell phone number that can receive mobile alerts, and you will start receiving those text messages. Now, you'll get both the updates when we have a large change, and you'll also get updates based on whatever schedule you choose here. So you can see, for instance, I've got a couple of check boxes running here, and those are the times when I'm going to get just a static alert from RateWatch letting me know what the market looks like. There's also a lenders area where you can select which lenders you'd like to watch in your lenders category here. And you can see I've got a couple of them selected here, so anytime I go to my lenders tab, it's going to show me what those particular lenders pricing sheets are doing at any given time. There's also an application settings area. This is what I was talking about before, where you can actually choose to launch the application on Windows Startup. You can choose to minimize it on close, that means when you close it using the X here, it'll still just go down to the bottom right and continue running on your machine. I've got sounds disabled on this one because I don't want sounds coming up as I'm doing things like recording. So keep this in mind. You can turn off the sounds in RateWatch. And then lastly, you have Edge View alerts. Now, if you check the boxes on your Edge presentations to be notified when one of your reports is viewed, you'll get a pop-up alert in RateWatch as well as an email. If you check the box here, you'll get that pop-up. If you uncheck it, you won't get the pop-up anymore. Just remember, when you're done with your settings, make sure and hit Submit, and then you are good to go on the settings. Now, some minor notes I want to point out to you before we bring Tony in to discuss a little further. You have 4 different areas in your RateWatch that you can look at. You have the home screen, which has the basic candlesticks, and if you hover over any of these candlesticks, it'll show you the trading range, where it opened, where it closed, what are the highs and lows. You also have a day watch area where you can see exactly what the bond market's doing on a minute-by-minute level here, and you can see we're kind of bouncing around today. But we haven't hit a point where it would issue an alert. If there was an alert, you'd see one of these little diamonds here, and that should be your trigger to take action. Inside here, you can see the alerts that have been posted today. There hasn't been any yet. If you've had any edge views, it'll list your edge views here as well. And if you've had any click-to-call requests, it would list those in your RateWatch as well, so you can get back to those clients. Now, commentary, very, very important. The commentary is where all of our experts put up their daily commentary. And you see that we've got Dan Rawich, who does a daily video. This one is going to be the most comprehensive look you'll get at what the bond market is doing. And it's going to really help you break it down in layman's terms in terms of what's going on in the market, what should you expect, what you should be looking out for. So if you want to get into these, all you have to do is double-click on them, and you can see that there is a video link here. And when you click on that, it opens up the RateWatch player. Now, this is actually a playlist, so it shows all of the videos. So it's not only Dan, but you can see we've got weekly talking points from Bill Fisher. We've got Wow Selling, which is one that Dave Savage just did. And you can scroll down in this list, and you can find past videos that were done a while back. We've got Bill Hart with his Real Connections. There's also a Carpe Diem segment in there from Todd Duncan. And we've got a couple more. We also have Neil Trineri provides just a text commentary for you that gives you the breakdown on the highs and lows. That one is actually back in the commentary. So if I hit back to commentary, I can go in here and you can see there's Neil's advice there. And we've got just some basic numbers there and then some advice down at the bottom. Now, with that said, I'd like to introduce Tony Blodgett. Tony has graciously joined us today to help explain how would you use the RateWatch as an originator and what kind of things you should be looking out for. So with that, Tony, I'm going to go ahead and pass the screen to you, and I'd like you to introduce yourself, tell everybody a bit about yourself, and then we'll get to it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jacob. You can hear me okay?
Yes, sir. You sound great.
Fantastic. Well, hey, welcome all you RateWatch people and Mortgage Coach users, and if you're new to this system, then welcome. I think you're going to see a lot of value from it. A little bit about me. Again, my name is Tony Blodgett. I'm the President and Chief Operating Officer of Mortgage Advisory Group up here in the Puget Sound area in Washington. I've been originating mortgages for about 16 years, and I used Mortgage Coach back when it was the old version before we had Edge and all the fancy tools. And I got to tell you, we're also an enterprise user, so our whole organization uses these tools and resources, and I'm a huge advocate of them. I think they really are a differentiator for you as an originator and can bring a lot of true value to your realtor partners and to your borrowers, and educate you and make you more fiscally literate and in tune with what's going on in the market. What I hope to show you today is just a few ways that I've used these tools directly with my borrowers at point of sale. Everyone has a different way of interacting with their borrowers, but I typically would have my borrowers come into my office to sign disclosures and meet with them, and that's when I would pull up the RateWatch widget here and show them some of the ways that I keep an eye on the market for them. So that's a little bit about me.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. So let's start off with just kind of a basic drill down on some of the functions up at the top there. You can see we've got agency, we've got coupon, and then we've got those analysis points. And for those people who are brand new to using RateWatch, what are these and why should they be using them? Why would they change them at any given time? And what can they do with them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to be honest with you, there's actually some debate as to which coupon is the best one to watch. If you look at different services, sometimes they're tracking in different ways, and so I think I can add a little bit of color to that. So basically, I think a simple way to think about this is that if you're looking at the 3.5 coupon, that's going to represent interest rates about in the 3 7/8 to 4 1/4 range. So if rates are in the high 3s, low 4s, the 3.5 should be trading more in line with what's actually happening on your rate sheet on a daily basis. Once you get above like 4 3/8 all the way up to about 4 7/8, then the 4% coupon is going to be the one that you're going to want to watch more closely. It's going to be more reflective. The movements you see in that coupon price are going to be more reflective directly into your rate sheet. Now there are some variances to that. If rates are at 4 1/4, as you can imagine, you're selling a 3.5 coupon, so there's some rebate. Think of it like rebate on an interest rate. And so you got to look at your best execution. But for the most part, 3 7/8 to 4 1/4. If your rate sheets, that's about where par rates are at. Be looking at the 3.5. And if you're 4 3/8 to 4 7/8, the 4% is probably going to be a better indicator. Frankly, I just keep it on the Fannie Mae one here. I think that's kind of your best indicator. Most of the commentary that Dan's going to talk about is going to be based on the Fannie Mae. You can look at the treasuries, but as we all know, they give us an indication of what bonds are doing overall, but they're not going to give us a really good representation of what's going to happen in our rate sheet that day.
Excellent, excellent. So, Tony, if you would, tell us a little bit about those trend lines that you've got up there and how you use those. What do those mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can get really crazy with it if you want. As you can see, there's multiple different lines that we can add in here. And frankly, the ones that are most important the most important one is the 200-day moving average, which you can see I have up here. That's typically a very strong level of resistance, or it can be a very strong level of support if you're above the 200-day moving average. I don't leave the other ones on typically, and they just kind of clutter up my page. But the resistance and support are pretty critical. Now, here's the thing. As you can see, look at where we're at today, right? So you can see that this is where we opened this morning, and we're actually below both levels of support. And so let's talk about this for a minute. I think that, you got to be careful with the support and the resistance. And, they're a good indicator of what could happen, but there's certainly no science to this. And so, if this worked perfectly every time, we would all be, bond traders and stock market traders because it would be that predictable. And the reality is it just doesn't work that way. But it does give us some indications as to what range we might see, rates trading between. And we're going to talk a little bit about alerts here. Alerts coming up. But what I like to do is I like to get a feel for what my trading range is, because if we're at the top of a trading range and I know I got some time on a lock, that alert might not mean as much to me, knowing that we have some room, and we're going to probably test the resistance or support. So I always keep the resistance and support on just to kind of see what our range is. But again, don't give those so much weight that you let a borrower's rate go up because you were 100% counting on that resistance holding. Now, what I would do, you see today we did break that level of resistance, so you can kind of go back to a longer chart and you can kind of identify for yourself where the next level of resistance might be. And so you can look at where we've kind of topped out here before, 100.66. I think that's probably a good level. Somewhere around par 0.6 is probably where our next level of support is going to be, being that we broke these established lines, in the shorter term here. So you can just go back and draw lines yourself and see where the market stalled out at different times, and that's going to be an indication of where we have good support or where it might establish resistance.
Excellent, excellent. So tell us a bit about the alerts, Tony. How do you use those, and what do they mean to you when you get an alert that says it's just gone down 16 basis points or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I use them in a couple different ways. To me, the alerts, as much as they are an indication of what to do with my loans that I have floating, frankly, I don't float loans a lot. If I take on a borrower's transaction, especially in today's market with the volatility and with loan officer compensation rules the way that they are, obviously there's no incentive to me as an originator to try to increase the price on that. Certainly I can get my borrower a better rate, but I can also lose if I want to gamble with that. So I would say there was a time where, the alerts, we kind of lived and died by the alerts because a lot of us were in the habit of floating our loans. I think that that's gone away a lot, but here's the deal with the alerts, you guys. This is a great selling point. I have all the alerts come to me via my text messages. I also make sure that I have my text messages set up to give me alerts every single hour as to what's going on. Now, I also get them via email, but frankly, I have those channeled into a separate folder and a rule set because it will clog up your inbox a little bit. But the reason I want them on my phone is because they're not a big distraction, but when I'm out talking to real estate agents or borrowers, I can pull up my phone and I can just show them how tuned in I am to the market, that every single hour and every time there's a significant move, I'm getting an alert and I know exactly what's going on with the market, and that's part of the value proposition that you should be bringing to that relationship with your borrower, is the fact that they don't need to worry about what rates are doing because you're so tuned in to what they're doing and you have the tools right there at your fingertips to know when to make a move. Let me give you another example of how I would use the alert. Let's go back really quick and look at this longer chart here. Now, this is something that I might do at point of sale. I love the RateWatch report, which is this icon up here, and you can see, this is the 5th I have pulled up. So let me show you what I did. I went back and I found a volatile day. So for instance, this day right here, we had a huge drop in the market. We opened at 98.5. We closed at 97.9. So we had over we closed at 98.6. 97.9. But so you can see we had a huge drop in the market that day. So what I would do is go to RateWatch, and you can actually search for any day that you want. So that was September 5th. I pull up the 5th, and I would show my borrower, this is what happened on that day. But look at what. I got an alert at 98.4. So that morning, rates started going down. I already probably was keeping an eye on the market at this point. I get an alert, and I would have had the opportunity to lock your loan here and not had to erode another 50 basis points in price by the end of that day. And if you look at the next day, it just continued to get worse. And so that's something that I might reference, and you can do this with any of these charts. You can just go back to any crazy volatile day, and I would find some favorites that you like to use and go, okay, well, this was August 21st. So I can go over here, and what's really cool about this is you can just go back to that day, and I can show them exactly what happened in the market that day, that we were cruising along and everything was okay, and then we fell off a cliff. Well, I would have had an alert early in that day to lock in your interest rate. So that's the way I use the alerts. I don't necessarily, like I said, I'm not usually sitting there floating all my loans. I watch every morning. I listen to Dan's call every morning. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to listen to Dan's call. He does a really good job. I'm certainly not a trader. He understands these patterns and candlestick charts quite a bit better than the average loan officer does, and so he'll be able to give you an idea of what it's going to do. But even Dan will tell you, there's no exact science. We knew that there was a level of support right here, and we knew that if we started, moving down towards that there was a possibility we'd break through it, and we did. One other thing I want to touch on really quick, if you don't mind, Jacob, is look at this gap down we had here. This was the bond rollover, and you've all heard of the bond rollover. Think of the bond rollover as, because I freaked out when I saw this. I'm like, whoa, we opened below support, and then I go, oh, well, we had the rollover, which you guys put in the commentary, so you'll know that those have happened. But think of the bond rollover as you would think of, say, a rate lock extension. Okay, so typically you're going to see a gap down of about 36 to 44 basis points on average when there's a rollover of the coupon to the next month. And these don't necessarily impact your rate sheet, but they will throw your patterns off a little bit. And as you can see, it put us in a little bit different range. And here we are. We've fallen below that due to what's going on with all this crazy government stuff. So that's the way I use the alerts. Does that help, Jacob?
Oh, absolutely. That's some great insight. And thanks for mentioning the rollover. That is very important. A lot of people don't realize that there can be a large jump or drop due to that rollover, and it just does not affect pricing at all. It's just kind of a reset button for the bond market. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I guess my final question to you is, how would you use this to deliver value to your clients and partners without having to be there? Do you send them emails about this? Do you call them about it? How does that work for you?
Yeah, all of the above, frankly. Sending screenshots of the market is a very good tool to use, especially when you've had that. If you have a really savvy borrower and they feel that they're in tune with the market as well, and I've had borrowers that they do a lot of their own trading or whatnot, and so they feel pretty astute as to their grasp on the market. And the reality is, unless you actually have a service like this where you're looking right into the trading of the Fannie Mae mortgage-backed securities, there's no way that they can have the same finger on the pulse that you do. So during that time between when they say, hey, I think I want to float, I think rates are going to get better, I will, on a daily basis, sometimes throughout the day, be sending them the day watch or even the chart showing them what the trend is. And that does a couple things. One, it shows them that I'm in tune with the market, but two, it also makes it so it's their decision. I'm showing them what the market's doing in real time or once a day, and they're getting to make the decision if they lock or not. And what I've found that when I do that and the market gets worse, they go, hey, you know what, we were all in this together, we all made the decision together, and I can empower them with the same tools that I have. So I think that it's critical, especially while someone's floating, to keep them up to date. You can show them the graphs. I got to be honest with you. When I got a large pipeline of loans, I don't like my loans to be floating. To me, it's a distraction. It's something that I have to worry about and think about, and it just buys up my brain cells, if you will. I want to be out selling new mortgages, and so I'm not in the habit of floating loans. Like I said, there was a time where that was really fun to do, and it can be very rewarding if you were good at it, but it's stressful, and it's stressful for your borrowers. So using these tools, frankly, the day watch is so great because what you can show someone is just the sheer volatility that this market goes through on a daily basis, and that alone will typically get people off the fence and agree to lock in their rate. And again, for you, that can be a distraction. Now, if you know that we're solidly, the market has had a bullish run, and we broke through a level of well-established support, and there's a chance that it's going to run up a little bit longer, sure, you might want to float for a day or two, but be very transparent with your borrowers, and these tools allow you to be transparent with your borrowers and show them that. And also when you're out in the field with your real estate partners, and when you're meeting with a new real estate agent and selling them on why they should do business with you, this RateWatch has to be a part of that presentation. It has to be something that you speak to as to how you stay in touch with the market and how you educate yourself and become more fiscally literate. And then the last thing is the commentary. They've done a really good job in this commentary section of adding new content, and so keep an eye on that and educate yourself with that. And I would again let your partners know that you're getting training and updates from some of the smartest people in the mortgage industry. It just keeps you tied in. So I think showing the tools is the biggest thing, Jacob, to showing how you bring value to the relationship, both with your borrowers and realtors. Keep this widget up, show it to them, take your phone, pull out your phone, show them your text messages, show them the alerts that you get from the system, and that's going to show them that you're in tune with the market, and that does bring a lot of value to the relationship. The last thing that I would say is the candlesticks themselves. If you're not familiar with reading a candlestick chart, I would encourage you to do some research and get familiar with it. There's a lot that these candlesticks can tell you. They were used in the I think 1600s by the Japanese, and so there's a lot of history behind how they work. But you should educate yourself as to what the different patterns mean and what just the actual shape of each individual candle means to you. And I know, Jacob, you have some training resources that you could forward out to people if you don't constantly use these or not familiar with them. But I encourage you to spend some time, carve out some time, and get familiar with how the Japanese candlesticks work and the patterns to look for, because it's going to make you that much more articulate when you're explaining these to your borrowers. But it's also going to make you, it's great to listen to Dan's commentary or anyone else's commentary, but you'll be able to formulate some of your own opinions. And frankly, they may be different than the quote-unquote expert commentary if you've educated yourself on how these work. They're not complicated. But there is a lot of different patterns. As you can see just in the shapes that we have here, you have the long wicks and the long shadows up and down. Each of those mean different things. And so spend some time, educate yourself. There's information online, and I know, Jacob, you can forward people out some information as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony. That's spot on correct. You guys, if you need any information or if you'd like to see some resources on how to get more in-depth on reading the actual candlesticks themselves, send us a note over at support@mortgagecoach.com, and we'll shoot you out some resources so you can do that. A couple of key takeaways from what Tony was saying. I just wanted to reiterate. Two things, transparency and education. Those were some of the huge factors that I heard him talking about. And, the transparency element, we try to do that in everything we do, whether it's, with the RateWatch or using Edge. I mean, we're showing things to the borrower that other originators just aren't going in depth on. So this just gives that extra layer of transparency. And, it leads to an earlier commitment. Once you've got that out there and people understand that, one, you're an expert on what you're doing, which you're an originator. That's what you do. And you're watching all the different channels possible to make sure that you have the education necessary to help your borrower. That's key. The second part of that is education for the borrower. Walking into a home loan decision as a borrower, I want to know everything I can possibly know about how this process works, what I should be looking out for. And if I know my originator has all this at his fingertips, faster commitment. It all lands in the same spot. So, Tony, is there anything else you'd like to say? I know you're a little strapped for time today. I don't want to keep you beyond our scheduled time here, but
the only thing that I would say, Jacob, is that I think a lot of people sign up for Mortgage Coach Edge because of the Edge, piece of the software, and I think that every single transaction should have an Edge report with it. I think that every single annual review that you do with your borrower. You should be giving them an edge report on something creative they could do to pay down their mortgage faster or whatnot. But don't downplay the value of RateWatch. And I don't mean just as far as keeping you up to date as to what the market's doing by getting text messages or you being able to log in the morning and look at the charts. I mean as a point of sale tool. Do not underestimate the value it brings to your borrowers and to your realtors. And I always thought of it as, hey, I get RateWatch as a bonus to having Edge, but it's a very powerful tool, just as Edge is if you leverage it properly. So give some thought into how you'd incorporate this into your borrower presentations, into your realtor presentations, and think about how you might leverage that. Even take your laptop, show them the widget, show them what you see every day and how you use that to give their borrowers a better deal. We all know that it doesn't matter what your rate is today. If the market sells off tomorrow and you lose your borrower 100 basis points, it really didn't matter. So it helps take the what's your rate today question out of the equation if you're leveraging these tools. So beyond that, Jacob, that's what I got, and I appreciate you having me on here to share a little bit with the team today. And you guys look for me in the commentary. I'm working on putting together some other training tools on how to leverage Edge and RateWatch, and look for those coming up under the commentary and the RateWatch TV.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Tony. We really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your insight on this. And I personally can't wait to see your new commentaries coming out. We haven't told anybody about that, so today everybody knows. But we're thrilled to have you on. And again, very valuable insight today. For all those of you out there that are just kind of brand new and getting into the industry, and I know there's quite a few of you on this call today, these are some of the tenets you should watch out for. When we're talking about how do you court new partners, how do you court new clients, education is so key. And since you have these tools at your fingertips, it's really important that you make sure and deliver this. And there's some very easy ways to do this, and I'm going to show you real quick. Tony, thanks again for your time. Feel free to drop off if you need to go. Otherwise, chime in if you have something important to say, and I definitely want to bring you back.
Okay, well, I'll hang out for a minute.
All right, great, thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and change presenters real quick here and show my screen. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to show you, Tony was talking about what do you do, with the DayWatch charts? How do you deliver these guys? And something that's really important that you should know is all you have to do is right-click on the charts, and you can hit copy. And then you can paste this into an email. Just literally right-click and hit paste, and now you've got a chart that you can send directly out. You can do this for both the candlestick area and the DayWatch area, and just compose a nice, friendly email around it, just kind of talking about, what your purpose in doing this is. What are you doing by watching the bond market, and how are you providing additional information to your borrower to make an educated home buying decision? This is the single easiest way to immediately get a whole bunch of education out to your borrower. Now, another thing you can do, and feel free to do this, when you go into the commentary modules here and you get into Dan's commentary, feel free to copy this link. If you want to send this out to your partners and borrowers, all you have to do is select it and then hit Control-C on your keyboard, and that'll copy that link. Then you can paste that link into your email along with the charts and say, something like, please check out the commentary. There's some experts that are talking about what happened in today's market, and feel free to comb down the list. There's some great points in there that I think you can share with your partners, and you can share with other people that are helping to make your home buying decision. So feel free to, guys. We're not locking this down for any of you. I would say the only time you would need to even really cite us on this one is if you're posting it on your website. If you're going to post a link to the commentary, just make sure to cite that it came from RateWatch and cite who the author of the content was, just so it's out there. But outside of that, feel free to share this with your clients and partners that will. As I mentioned, you can also do this on the home chart here. So if you wanted to go straight down to the 10-day moving average, for instance, and just show what's going on there, you can literally right-click on this and hit copy, and you can paste this one into your email as well. So I'll show you what that looks like. Now, what some people do, and I do this on occasion if I'm going to use this, is if you have an image editor, you can actually add your own little lines like you see Dan doing on his daily commentary. This is exactly what he's doing. He's right-clicking on the chart, he's pasting it into an email or something, and then he's using an image editor to just draw a couple of extra lines to explain what he's talking about for that particular discussion. So feel free to do that. It's definitely going to help a great deal. Now, with that said, I think there's one area that I didn't show you before, and that was the lenders area. Now, we talked about this for just a moment when we were going through the settings, and I showed you where you can choose which lenders you're watching. Now, as you can see, if we look at all lenders right now, we have an aggregate of about 110 lenders that are in this system. And what we're showing here is not so much exactly what their movement is on the pricing. This is average movement across all of their rate sheets. So, for instance, Westland Financial, over all their rate sheets across the country, they had an average downplay of 0.41. So keep this in mind. You're really just looking to see what the trends are and how many people are going with it. If I've got 48 of these lenders repricing for the worst, I can pretty much assume that my lenders are probably going to reprice for the worst as well. But you can choose which type of loans that you're watching. For instance, if you want to watch FHA pricing, you can see that most of those also did reprice for the worst. Very few of them actually priced for the better. You can check out jumbo, and you can do either fixed or ARM on any of these, so you can see exactly what those rate sheets are doing. Now, as I told you before, you can actually choose your own lenders. So if you want to do that, as I've chosen my lenders, I only had 3 of them in there, but when I click on my lenders, you can see that there was no repricing at all from the specific ones that I'm watching. So all lenders is going to give you the overall trending, and then, matter of fact, let me bring this back to conforming fixed, and we'll see if my lenders had anything. Nope. Okay, good. So all lenders is going to give you, the basic guideline on what everybody else is doing right now. This is a big indicator that you should be watching out and calling your lock desk pretty soon here. But my lenders is going to allow you to isolate just the few lenders that you want to watch specifically, so that you can stay on top of the ball and just get it that much faster. Now, one thing I can tell you is that what you're looking to do with this piece is you're looking to find out exactly how long it takes your lenders to reprice, either for the worst or for the best. And you'll usually find out that good pricing always takes a lot longer than a negative reprice. So if you can isolate your lenders specifically and figure out that, hey, when I get a RateWatch alert that, it's gone down 20 basis points, I'm pretty confident that within about an hour and a half, my lenders are going to start repricing for the worst. So I know what my window is. Now, on the other side of it, check out how long it takes them to reprice for the best. It's usually going to be about 3 times as long, sometimes more. But eyeball your lenders and see what they're doing. And that'll help you to develop a good marketing strategy towards this, because now when you have that conversation with your realtor partners, when you have that conversation with your borrowers, not only are you showing them that you're tracking, the minute-by-minute movement in the market, but you're also aware of exactly what kind of time frames you have when big hits happen in the market, whether it's up or down. I've got X amount of time before I can anticipate a lender reprice. So this is going to help you to just distill it down just a little bit further so that you can assist your borrower in getting the best rate possible. All right, so that is that's the coverage on the RateWatch. I do want to talk about a couple of new features that were added to our support environment. I know many of you are brand new on the call, so I wanted to make sure you guys all know how to get support. We do offer email-based support and knowledge-based support, but you can submit tickets from a variety of places, and I wanted to show you how to access those. So let me pull up Edge real quick here. Now, anytime you're inside Edge, if you need help with something, the quickest way to get it is to hit the Help button up at the top. This is not going to kick you out of Edge. It's going to open up a new tab for you that goes straight to our Support Center. Now, this Support Center is a knowledge base full of all kinds of goodies. Now, you can see that, matter of fact, let me log out so you guys can see what you would normally see. So when you hit the knowledge base, the first thing is it welcomes you to support, and then if you want to, you can actually get your own support password. Now the reason you would want to do this, and a matter of fact, if you've ever contacted us before via email, you already have an account in the support system. You just need a password. But the reason you'd want to do this is if you wanted to check your existing requests, and you can actually even see your past requests, and if you wanted to eyeball those, go back for a solution that we gave you a while back, you can find those in here. Now, probably the most critical part of this knowledge base is the search. When you want to find out information on something, I mean, there's all kinds of questions that are in the frequently asked questions, but I find keyword searches are probably the fastest way to find it. So if I'm having a problem with my MI and I search for MI, I can see that why is my MI not being included in the pity payment, and there's my answer immediately. This one's actually very valuable too. Can you explain all the different areas of the presentation? This tells you exactly things like the short-term savings. You may be a little hazy on what that's showing. This tells you the exact details on what's going on with that. Now, if for some reason when you do your search you're not able to find what you need there, you can hit fill out a request form. Now, this will open up a ticket for you, and when you pop in your email address and then start typing a subject line and description, it'll actually start showing you some different videos nearby that might be able to solve your problem. If they don't, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Just make sure and choose a category as to what the problem is. So, for instance, if I've got a feature request and I want to say I want something added to Edge that's really going to help me, I can attach a file to it. And the newest part, you can now record a screencast. So if you're in Edge and you're running into a problem where you're having a hard time figuring something out, let's say I'm in Edge here and I'm in my products area and I'm just not quite sure what to do with my closing cost detail. Matter of fact, how can I edit this contributions line? This is a very common question that comes through our support box. So if I go to submit a ticket, I can now hit record screencast. It's going to open up a little Java recorder, and you see it says loading screen recorder there. Now, once this opens up, you're going to see at the very bottom of the screen, it's going to have an area where you can select your mic and camera, and then we can change back over to Edge. So there it goes, it just appeared, and you can see at the bottom of the screen, I now have an area where if I want to detect my microphone and select it, I've got a bunch of mics on here, but I can choose which one I want to use for the recording. You can even adjust the capture size by simply dragging the boxes here. And then when you're ready, just jump back over to Edge, hit the record button, and it'll count you down, and then you can actually record your screen and give us a verbal message. Hey, support, I'm having a real hard time with this contributions line. I'm not sure where this is coming from, and I don't know what to do here. Tell me what to do. When you're done, hit done. It's going to upload this straight over to your ticket, and you can see that it actually gives you a preview here, so if you want to play it back first to make sure that it's exactly what you want to see, you can hit that, then hit upload. This is going to upload your video directly to that ticket. So once this is done, I'll show you what it looks like in just a moment here. All right, so once this is done, back on my ticket, you can see that I've now got a screencast attached here. So once I hit submit, this is going to go over to our ticketing system, and we'll be able to see your screencast. And in fact, we can respond with a screencast to you. So a lot of the times, I hear people that when they first come on, the immediate thing they want to do is they want to talk to support on the phone. We don't offer phone support. However, we can do you 2 times better. We can not only see your screen by doing a screencast, but we can even go into your record, with your permission of course, check out your data entry and give you options on how to fix it. And we can even record that screencast for you and send it back to you, so you'll have the exact answer that you need right away. Now, I will tell you our standard response time for our support system is usually 10 to 15 minutes. Sometimes during lunch when we're a little short on staff, it might be a little tiny bit longer, but we always try to get to these tickets as fast as possible. So I want you guys to have confidence that when you submit a request to our support system, we're going to get back to you with an accurate, quick response as soon as possible. So check this out when you get a minute. Log into the Zendesk here and just see what you can do with it. There's all kinds of videos in our knowledge base, and you can feel free to peruse this at any time. Everything from just getting started and the basics to all the different presentation walkthroughs. And then we have advanced topics, borrower paid MI versus lender paid MI. How do you do that in Edge? Well, this is going to show you exactly how. We've also got strategies. So for instance, you may have seen the Skip the Bagel presentation that we've posted on Facebook and in a couple of marketing pieces. This particular one shows you exactly how to build that strategy. If you want to create an annual review like Tony was talking about earlier, this is a step-by-step on how to produce that in your Edge presentations. Now, there's also frequently asked questions. You can see that there's a lot of questions in there. This is a great repository for just random information that you'd like to know about Edge. How do I compare a 203K product versus a conventional? This is a very specific topic, but we gave a very specific answer on this as well. Now, there's been some new features that have been added to Edge recently, things like customizing your reinvestments. You can now earmark things like when MI drops off, you can reinvest that mortgage insurance payment straight back into the principal or into an investment account. This shows you how to customize those investments. We also added fee template copying inside the Edge settings, so this should help you to refine your templates a little bit, and it'll save you a lot of data entry time on creating new ones. And then you may have noticed we added the MCC tax credit and the tax benefit on the total cost analysis. So this is an important way to see how that works. Now finally, there's Ask Your Peers or Suggest New Features. Now what this is for is this is so you can interact with the other people that are logging into Zendesk with you. And I should mention that our ticketing system goes through Zendesk. That's why I keep saying that. I realize I hadn't said that before. But when you join our knowledge base, you can actually interact with other people that are using the same knowledge base, and you can suggest new features. You can see there's actually a couple of them here that, how do I take video on my iPhone and upload to the Mortgage Edge presentation? Well, it's not possible to do that. However, this is a great suggestion, so we've loaded it into the Suggest New Features box. Now, our management team will periodically look over this, and we'll develop tickets out of this based on what you guys are asking for so that we can continue improving the software. So that's the detail on our support center. If you guys have any problem with this, or you're finding that maybe your knowledge-based searches aren't quite netting what you want, let us know over in support, because we want to try and fine-tune this so this is as easy as possible for you to use. But that being said, I think we'll jump back over into Edge. We've got about 20 minutes left, so I'm going to see if there's any questions real quick here, and we'll see if we can address those for you. Okay, it looks like there are a lot of questions in the box, so let me see what I can do about those. And Tony, I see you're still on the call. There may be a question or two for you. If it's okay, I'd like to call on you for those if you're still available. Oh, great, you are. Thank you.
Yeah, that's no problem.
All right, thanks, Tony. I appreciate it. So Jimmy's question was, what affects the 5-year fixed rates? So Tony, actually, I'd like to have you address that one if you would. And I believe this is an early question that was focusing on RateWatch from before.
Yeah, sure. So again, like I said before, that the 4% coupon is going to be at those rates that are in that range of 4 3/8 up to 4 7/8, and could even spill into the potentially the low 5s. The problem is just like paying discount or rebate on an interest rate lock. The same thing happens when you're selling into a coupon. So if you're selling a rate at 5% into a 4% coupon, there's rebate there, and it's probably not going to be the same execution you'd get if you were up into the 4.5 coupon. So rates in the low 5s are probably going to trend off of the 4.5 coupon. And so what you'll see is as interest rates continue to increase, or if they go back down, you'll see that the coupon price that we're typically watching is going to change based on those rates changing. And it's really a function of how much volume is going into each of those coupon buckets at that given time. And yeah, you can see there the different options. You can just choose the 4 or the 4.5. The problem is when rates are in the mid-4s and you look at, say, the 4.5 coupon, there's not enough volume activity into that coupon to really show the characteristics that would, that we typically like to watch to know what interest rates are going to do, because there's just not enough activity going on in that bucket. So it is important that you stay close. But to answer that question, if rates are in the low 5s, you're going to move up and you're going to be looking at what the 4.5 coupon's doing. You're going to notice, though, if you watch them closely, they're all going to trend similarly, but they won't be exactly the same. Just like you can watch treasuries, and they'll trend similar to what the MBSs are doing, but it won't be as tied into what your rate sheet's going to reflect.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Tony. Another question here. Benjamin asks, I'm pretty new to analyzing these charts. What is the resistance?
So resistance is established, and if you want to pull up the resistance line there, you can just add that in there, maybe just show support or resistance. So what happens is that when the charts continue to test a certain level, what that does is establishes a level of resistance, and that can act as a floor or a ceiling. And again, like I said before, just because we've established a potential level of support or resistance, it doesn't mean that there can't be other situations. Like, for instance, we're heavily driven right now by news. And so the idea that we may come to some sort of resolve on the shutdown of the government and some sort of an agreement on the debt ceiling, that's very bullish for the stock market. And so as a result, a lot of the trades that have taken place recently to kind of have the safe haven, bet, everyone putting their money into bonds, some of that's unwinding because they want to, realize the gains in the stock market. So the technical signals that we see on the charts is not going to override what the news is doing, and that's why I said you can't just look at that. But to answer the question, support and resistance gets established when there's multiple tests of that same level, and you can go back historically and see where we've hit the same level multiple times. And for instance, this isn't on the chart, but if you look at those 2 days, those two top marks, there's a green and a red marks there at the top of your screen there in that widget, and you can see where the wick went up on both of those days, and that wick, the highest part of that day was about the same mark. So that if we get back up in that range, that could be an established level of resistance to break through that, because the market tried to break through there 2 other times and didn't make it and turned back downward. So if we get back up to that level again, that would be a great example of where we would have a level of resistance established as a result of multiple days of testing that level and not breaking through it.
All right, thank you. That's a great explanation. Ken's question, and I can address this one. He says, can you show the RateWatch graphics on your mobile devices such as cell phones? So Ken, there is no mobile application yet for RateWatch. We are considering building one for the future here, but for now you would not be able to pull up the RateWatch graphics on your mobile device, with a couple of exceptions. Because this is done in Flash, you can actually get to the RateWatch online if you have a browser capable of supporting Flash. Now, kind of a quick kludge on this that we recently found out, there's a couple of browsers out there that you can even install on iOS platforms that do support Flash. Browsers like Puffin tend to work pretty well on that one. So you could potentially even bring up your RateWatch online chart in that browser. Now, so you guys can see what this looks like, and this is also for those of you who don't have admin rights on your computer and you can't install the RateWatch until you can get your IT department to help, you can always get to these charts online. So it's just ratewatch.com/RateWatch online. And this will take you to the browser-based version of the RateWatch. Now, once you log in, you'll see the exact same things as we do on the desktop version. The main difference between these two is that on the desktop version, you get notifications and alerts, whereas on the on-screen version in the browser, you don't get those pop-up notifications at all. But one thing that you should be aware of is look how big these charts are. So if you want to grab a really good screenshot of a chart, this is a great place to go. Now, you can't do a right-click and copy like you would with the desktop application, but there's tools out there that allow you to do screen capture. For instance, if you are in Windows 7, you have one built in. If you go to All Programs and then you look in Accessories, there's something called a snipping tool here, and when you use that, it allows you to draw a rectangle around whatever you want to capture, and you'll see I'll do that right now. And then when you release that, it captures it as an image. So now I can save this, I can copy it, I can even mark it up if I want to, and send this out to my borrower. So again, for those of you who weren't aware of it, there is a browser-based version of RateWatch, and if you haven't got RateWatch installed on your machine because you don't have admin rights, you can still get to this every day and stay on top of the bond movements. All right.
Hey Jacob, I got a thought on that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing that you could do, specifically if you just want to be able to show examples of the charts, maybe not real time on your iPhone or mobile device, you could also do the cut and paste into an email. You can have that in your email and bring that up when you're there meeting with your referral partner, bring it up on your tablet or something like that to give them an example of what it is that you're watching on a regular basis. That might be another way of doing it. And that snipping tool, that's my favorite little widget. If you're not using that on Windows 7, take that and pin it to the bottom of your taskbar there, because you'll use that all the time.
Absolutely. And there's other tools out there too, like Snagit, Jing. These all allow you to do screen captures as well. But great point there, Tony, about the email. You know, it's a very easy way to keep something portable. Write yourself an email with the charts, whatever commentary that you want to include on it. Now you've got that mobile on your device and it can be displayed anywhere. So great point, Tony. Thank you. All right. So that kind of actually spoke to Lisa's question. She was saying, how do you, when you say show the chart, how are you doing that? In person or can you email it? And as we just noted, you can do both. And as a matter of fact, if, as Tony suggested, you can do it as an email, keep it on your smartphone or your tablet, and now you've got that as a portable way to show the RateWatch anytime. Let's see. Is there a RateWatch for iPad? Not yet, Guy, but as we spoke about earlier, you could potentially get RateWatch online here by installing a browser that can support Flash. I've personally done it on my iPad, and I know it works with a browser called Puffin. Lonnie's question, how do you create the My Lender list? Great question. So what you do is you click on the little settings cogwheel here, and this is the same for both the desktop version and the online version. And then you're going to go into the lenders area and hit select lenders. Now this is going to pop open a list of all the available lenders, and you can actually filter them by keyword search. So like Bank of America I could do, but I already moved it over. So let's do something else. So there's Wells Fargo. I just started typing in Wells, and you can see that I've got Wells Fargo correspondent. I can add that lender to my list, and then once I've got all the lenders that I want to watch, I'm just going to hit OK here, and then those are now part of my lenders. So when I go to the lenders tab here, I can now select from my lenders, and if there was any movement from those 4 lenders I've chosen, we'd see it right here. All right, looks like there's a couple more questions here. Stephanie's question, can we put the RateWatch screen on multiple computers and on our cell phones? So you can have it on multiple computers. Matter of fact, probably the solution for you, because you can have it on 2 computers installed at any given time. If you install it on a third one, it's okay. Just make sure you're only logged in twice, because the third one will actually kick one of the logins out. But that said, you can always put the RateWatch online on any computer. Just save this particular, matter of fact, you don't even need all this extra hash stuff here. Get rid of that. But if you save this to your favorites, you can immediately get to the online version from any computer. Okay. Brent's question, why do lenders reprice so frequently and vary? What is driving this difference? So Tony, if you wouldn't mind, can you chime in on that one?
Yeah, well, different lenders have different strategies around this, and so it's hard to speak for each of them. But you got to remember that they all have their own people that are on their trading desks or that run their capital markets, their secondary departments, and so they're doing their own interpretation of what the market's doing and what it's going to do, in the near future. And so sometimes you'll see people make a rate change ahead of other lenders because they're watching it. They're watching their own news. They're kind of keeping their eye on what's going on. There is other systems that that capital markets people use to get their feel for what's going on in the market, and they don't want to lose money, right? So they're gonna make a move that's gonna protect their position with their locks and whatnot. So it won't always be the same, because although the information is widely available and it's the same information, every capital markets or secondary marketing manager has a different way of interpreting that news. And if there's a sell-off, how severe that's going to be. So some people will go real time. If the market's off by 25 basis points, they'll have a quarter-point adjustment, but someone else might go 3/8 or a half because they think maybe by the end of the day it's going to be even worse. And so they're going to protect themselves and price that in. So that's what's so great about this option you guys have here of being able to see each lender. But that's why they do it. They do it to protect their position. And the reason it's different and frequent is because each person has their own strategy on what these movements mean and how it's going to ultimately impact rates over a period of time, and they want to make sure they don't get caught.
Oh, all right. Excellent. So another question I get quite often, and we didn't get this one today, but I want to address it for those of you out there. The question is, I've had another MBS monitoring service for quite some time, and I noticed that your pricing changes or your basis look just totally different. Why does yours vary from the other ones I've been using? And I'll tell you that probably the pivotal point here is, and one of our people actually brought this up earlier, when we're looking at the daily movement, we're looking at it from opening bell. So when we're seeing up 6 basis points, that's from the start this morning. So if you hover the chart here, you can see that our 6 basis points is going from the 100.88 to 100.94. Now, many services out there will base the movement on the day before's close. So if you're finding that there's a disparity from what you're used to seeing with another provider, 10 to 1, this is what it is. We choose to ignore the time, and obviously the bonds are still traded overnight worldwide. However, what affects our pricing the most is going to be the daily trading. That's the one that the lock desk and the capital markets people are really looking at. So I just wanted to clarify that for those of you out there that may have come from a different service where you were getting a little bit different type of rate movement shown in your applications.
Hey, Jacob, I'd like to add to that if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely.
So that's absolutely what people are experiencing, and I had the same exact thing when I switched over to RateWatch. And one thing I would tell you all as a RateWatch user, especially if you're getting the text messages and whatnot, what can happen if you're used to a different service and now you're on this one. I really like the way that you guys do it because the alerts are telling me what's happening to that day's rate sheet. So I'm not having to think about where, if there's days where you would look at your service and you would see, oh, we're up 36. Well, yeah, we're up 36 from the day before, but our rate sheet's already out. Now we're down 15, and another service might show that okay, well now you're still up 17. You're thinking you're up. You guys are showing us that from the time my rate sheet came out, I'm actually down for that day's rate sheet. So there is a lot of value in the way that RateWatch has chosen to do it. But what you're going to have to do as a user is when you wake up in the morning, and I do this every morning, so I get my text message around 7 a.m. I look at that, and it says if we're up, down, or even, and then I'll look at what the price is versus what the last text message I was from the day before when the market closed, because you guys always send out a text message when the market closes. So I can do that quick math, and I can see where my rate sheet is going to be respective of where it probably closed yesterday, and then from that point forward, we're going to be looking at alerts and changes based on that day's rate sheet. So a little bit of a paradigm shift, but I've gotten very used to it, and now I like it a lot because I know if an alert's going off, it's not an alert based on what happened yesterday. It's an alert of what's going on today.
Excellent point, and thank you, Tony, because I got to tell you, I get the question quite often, and I have a good canned response, but I really like the way you frame it. Is look, I'm basing it on what I've experienced today on my rate sheet. I know the change is based on 7 a.m. when I came into work. What did my rates look like, and what should I expect going forward? So that's wonderful. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna steal that from you for some of my canned responses.
Well, and the key point is to know you need to know what happened overnight. So you do have to look at where it closed the day before and know what the difference is going to be. That's critical to what your pricing is going to look like. But so just make sure you take that. Make sure you take that step, and look at the close. And don't just look at the up or down movement when that first alert comes out at 7 a.m.
Excellent, excellent. So it looks like we got one more question in here. I wanted to make sure and deliver all this link to all of you. So I'm going to paste this into the chat area. This is just the link to the RateWatch online. I've sent that to everybody. Feel free to click on that one and bookmark it so that you can easily get back to the RateWatch anytime. The final question here before we wrap it for today was how are you able to zoom in on the home RateWatch chart? My default looks at a certain range, whereas yours seems to be looking at a different range. So let me show you something real quick here. Your view in the RateWatch tool depends on what metrics you choose for your support and resistance and the different lines you have for the analysis points, and what you choose for this. So for instance, if I chose the 10-day moving average, you'll see that if I apply the 10-day, the chart shifted just a little bit. Now, if I was to apply the 200-day, because it needs to bring in this line, it's gonna push the charts out a little bit further. And you'll notice that this gets accentuated when you get into the longer views, when you get into the 3-month views. It really does change pretty dramatically once you introduce all the different trend lines. But if you're finding that you're not able to see the range you're looking for, try clearing all the trend lines out, and then just go with these guys initially until you get the view that you want. Then start reapplying the trend lines, and that should help you out. Let's see. Actually, one last question. Is there a way to change the day watch to reflect a different coupon? The day watch is always going to be based on the coupon that we're following here. And right now we're following the 3.5 coupon. As Tony was mentioning, we're probably getting pretty close to following the 4% coupon because it looks like the trading range is getting a little stronger on that. But that'll come directly from Dan Rawich. He'll let us know exactly when he wants to change that watched coupon. But definitely check out the commentaries so you get an idea of why we're basing it on that coupon. Dan talks about it all the time in terms of what things to look out for. He'll go through the details on the head and shoulders formation and the candlesticks and what that means to you. But then he'll also let you know that, okay, we're getting to the top of the trading range here. We might be starting to follow a different coupon pretty soon. And then of course when he lets us know, we'll reflect it immediately inside your day watch. But for now, it does follow only the 3.5 coupon. You can, of course, earmark to watch different coupons by selecting the different coupons up here, but that is only going to be for this front level chart. That is not going to be for the day watch. So with that said, thank you again, Tony. I've really appreciated all of your insight on today's call. You've been a wonderful guest, and I'm sure everybody in here found tremendous value from what you spoke about today. And hopefully I can bring you back on for another call at some point in the future because this one's going to be golden. But Tony, again, thank you. Appreciate your time. And for all those out there, we did record this call, and it will be available in our coaching call archive on our website. So if you'd like to revisit this one, we can send you a link through support, or you can always go just straight to mortgagecoach.com, and you can hover over the community tab and choose coaching call archive. And this will take you directly over to where these calls are archived. So again, Tony, thanks again. Wonderful having you. And for everybody out there, have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Jacob.
All righty. Take care.